Hello my lovelies, I'm here once again to read you a story. Tonight I'm going to read Beauty and the Beast. I hope you enjoy it. Can you see? There we go. Let's hold it up even higher. There we go. Once upon a time there was a rich merchant who had 3 daughters. The youngest daughter was called Beauty, and this made her sisters very jealous indeed. They were not as lovely as Beauty. They were not as generous and kind as Beauty. They were too busy thinking about themselves to be thoughtful of anyone else. It so happened that misfortune befell the merchant. He lost everything he owned except for a poor cottage in the country, so that is where he moved his family to. Beauty got up early every morning and worked as hard as she could. She did the cooking, the cleaning and the spinning. She fixed all of her sisters' clothes. Her sisters slept in late every morning and did not lift a finger to help with the housework. Instead, they sat around feeling very sorry for themselves. One day the merchant learned that one of his ships, which he had thought had been lost, had finally come into port. If he went to meet the ships, perhaps he could save some fortune after all. So he asked his daughters what presents they could like brought back by him. The 2 oldest daughters, of course, asked for everything they could. New dresses, fancy shoes and pretty jewellery, they both said. But Beauty asked for 1 rose, since she had not seen a rose in such a long time. And so the merchant travelled to the port where his ship had docked. But when he got there, sadly he found that he had been cheated. He was now even poorer than when he had started out. There was nothing he could do but turn around and go home. That night the weather grew bad and it began to snow, and before long the merchant was hopelessly lost in the forest. Suddenly, however, he saw a light shining through the trees. He followed it to a huge palace. There seemed to be no one at home, but a fire was burning in the fireplace and hot food had been set out on the table. So he entered the palace, and as soon as the merchant had eaten, he fell fast asleep. In the morning after breakfast, he looked around for his mysterious host, but he found nobody. He wandered out into the garden where he saw a rose bush that reminded him of Beauty's request. He broke off a rose for her, and suddenly he heard a strange noise and turned to see a terrible beast. "You ungrateful wretch!" roared the beast. "I've treated you well and now you steal my roses? For this you must die." The merchant fell to his knees and begged for mercy. He said that he had picked the rose for one of his 3 daughters. Upon hearing this, the beast replied, "I will let you go if one of your daughters comes here to take your place. If none of them loves you enough to come here willingly, then you yourself must return within 3 months." The merchant could not even think of asking his daughters to take his place, but he did want to see them again, and even if he must leave them in 3 months, he so agreed. When the merchant reached his cottage, he gave the rose to Beauty. "If you only knew what this rose had cost me," he said. And then he told his daughters about all that had happened and about his promise to the beast. "I will go in your place," announced Beauty, and although her father would not hear any of it, Beauty would not change her mind. "You cannot stop me from following you back to the palace," she said. "I would rather be killed by the beast than die of sorrow from losing you." When 3 months had passed, Beauty and her father went to the beast's palace. The beast asked Beauty if she had come willingly, and Beauty replied that she had. "Good," said the beast, "then you must stay." And then he left the room. The next morning after her father had left, Beauty wandered the palace. She discovered that all her needs were satisfied immediately. She found beautiful dresses and jewels in her room. She found fine meals were prepared for her, and there were many books for her to read. Now, it's funny that. I have lots of books here. She even found a magic mirror that she could look into whenever she wanted and see her father. At dinner time, the Beast came to visit Beauty. "Do you really find me ugly?" he asked. And Beauty replied that she did. And then the Beast looked sad and he left the room. Each night he came back to visit with her, but he was gentle and kind, and Beauty began to look forward to his visits. "It's such a shame he is so ugly," she said to herself, "for he is so thoughtful and good." There was only one thing that Beauty did not like, however. Each night the Beauty asked her to marry him, and Beauty always replied, "No, Beast, I cannot marry you." One day Beauty looked into her magic mirror and saw that her father was very ill. As soon as the Beast came to visit with her, she begged him to let her go, and then the Beast replied, "You are free to go, but promise me you will return in 8 days, for if you do not return, I will die." When she had promised, he gave her a magic ring that would take her to her father's cottage and bring her safely back to the palace. Beauty's father was overjoyed to see her, and he grew stronger and stronger every day. But when Beauty told her sisters how well she was treated by the Beast in the Beast's palace, they were more jealous than ever. "She has no right to be happier than we are," they complained. "Perhaps if we trick her into staying here, the Beast will become so angry he will kill her." There they are. Ugly sisters, aren't they? Look at that. So when it was time for Beauty to go, the sisters said, "You must stay longer, for if you leave now, our father will surely die." And so Beauty agreed to stay. But only 2 nights later she had a dream. She dreamed that the Beast was dying because she had broken her promise to him. As soon as she awoke, Beauty used the magic ring to take her back to the palace. She found the Beast lying on a path in the garden. His eyes were closed and he was almost dead. Beauty ran to him crying, "You must not die, Beast. You must live so we can be married." Shock, horror. Suddenly the palace was brightly lighted as if it had been decorated for a celebration. Beauty saw fireworks bursting all around the garden, and when she turned back to where the Beast had been, she saw a handsome prince. Bit like me. "Oh, where is my beloved Beast?" she cried. "Well, I was the Beast," replied the prince, "but you have broken the enchantment and set me free by loving me in spite of my ugliness." There he is. Good looking fellow, isn't he? Beauty's father and sisters were invited to the palace for the wedding feast, but when her sister saw how happy Beauty was, they became so jealous that they turned into stone statues. Beauty's father gave his blessings to his youngest daughter and the prince, and they all lived happily ever after. What a great story! What a great ending! I hope you enjoyed Beauty and the Beast, and I look forward to seeing you again. Good night.